Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Exploits Candidates Forum 2015. I'm Dave Anthony, and I'll be your host for this evening's procedures. First up, we will be introducing the two candidates that will participate in tonight's forum. And in the following order, I would like to now introduce Mr. Jerry Dean, the candidate for the Liberal Party in the Exploits region. And secondly, Mr. Clayton Forsey, candidate for the Progressive Conservative Party in the Exploits region as well. So welcome, gentlemen, and good luck as the evening progresses. At this time, we would also like to introduce our illustrious panelists, and I love the word illustrious because we need to say something really neat about them. And they are Ms. Margot Pitcher, and of course, our second panelist is Mr. Shane Budgell. And both of these people probably need no introductions, but certainly it's always nice to welcome them aboard. And thirdly, and she's got a little duty to perform as well, we have our capable, able, lovely assistant. We were going to call her Vanna, but we're going to call her Susan, which is her real name. And Susan, at this point, I'm going to give you, and before I do, I'll open the envelopes for our question period later. We're going to do this on air. You will now deliver the questions. When you get that done, I will proceed to explain the order of the evening. And it will go like this, gentlemen, for your information. We will start with a 3-minute opening statement from each of you. I have my little stopwatch, but we won't worry about that one because everything will be on cue. We're quite sure of that. That will then be followed, and this is for the listening audience's information as well, 6 questions with 2-minute response times from each of our panelists. That will then be followed by a period where the candidates, each of you, will ask each other a question from your own doings, and of course there will be no rebuttal, simply an answer from one person to the next. And following that, we will clue up with a 3-minute closing statement. So are all the rules and regulations clear?
Sounds good.
Clear as mud. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to throw it straight over to the candidates, and in the running order, we're going to start with Mr. Jerry Dean, Liberal Party candidate for Exploits. Mr. Dean, your opening comments, sir.
Yeah, thanks very much. There comes a time for every generation to step up and chart a new course for our future. Never in the history of this province have we been faced with such animosity between Ottawa and Newfoundland and Labrador. We stand by our belief that if you can't listen, you can't lead. During the past 10 years, this province has been shunned by Stephen Harper and the federal Conservatives. We have endured the Danny years, the Dunderdale years, and as short as the Davis year has been, under his watch, we have witnessed the collapse of the provincial progressive Conservatives. We as a people have been left out in the cold. Well, my friends, it's time for all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians to come in out of the cold. Our province can no longer rely solely on the wealth of non-renewable resources and the hope that prices will rebound. We can watch and wait, but we aren't content being bystanders. We want to lead, and we are ready to lead. We must work together as one. We must focus on the potential that abounds us, namely our human and natural resources that are second to none. I'm proud to be a member of the Dwight Ball team and his 5-point plan for a stronger tomorrow. Our Liberal government will focus on the needs of our seniors, children, and families. We will be a government that listens, and we will take action on what is important to you. I want to be part of that government, to bring your issues to the table, to work with you, to make our communities sustainable and safe in the future. You have the opportunity to be heard and to send a strong message to a new provincial government that you want a stronger tomorrow. A stronger tomorrow, that means inclusion at both levels of government. A strong tomorrow that will restore openness, transparency, and accountability. A strong tomorrow with improved health and health care. A stronger tomorrow in which we support safe and sustainable communities. a stronger tomorrow that promises investment in our future through education. I can stand here and tell you all the things that are wrong with the current administration. I could go on about how we emerged as an have province and within a year returned to a have-not province. But I won't. We need to focus on a stronger tomorrow. We need to learn from our past mistakes and rebuild our social programs and take control of our fiscal responsibilities. The answers are out there in the collective experiences of our people, of how policies and programs could and should work better. Through extensive public consultation and engagement, the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador has worked hard to develop a core set of policies and actions that reflect the interests of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. This province, this district, needs a voice that will be heard loud and clear, from every street corner to the coffee shops, to our hospitals, but most importantly, in the House of Assembly. The policies of the Liberal Party will set the course for many years. They are solid policies that enable our residents to have hope for tomorrow, a stronger tomorrow.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. And our second candidate's opening speech, Mr. Forsey, sir, if you will.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome. I appreciate the invitation to be here this evening. I'd like to begin by providing you with a little of my personal background. Growing up in a small outport community, Leading Tickles, you learn very early the value of family and integrity. After finishing high school, I had the opportunity to attend trade school in Louisport and Grand Falls, what is now Grand Falls Windsor, to take a drafting course, and was able to apply that trade by working for the Iron Ore Company of Canada in Labrador City in the engineering department. 3 years later, because of family sickness, I had to return back to the island, change careers, and spent many years in the private industry. Over 20 years of which was with Brookfield Dairy Scottsburn as sales and marketing manager. For the past 10 years, I've had the privilege to serve as MHA for the District of Exploits. During this time, I've had the opportunity to serve as caucus chair, parliamentary secretary to Innovation, Business and Rural Development, and parliamentary secretary to Forestry and Agri-Foods. We have been able to have major funding approvals for the district totaling approximately $100 million. In my brochure that was delivered to the households, there are details on some of these investments, such as road upgrades and paving, $22 million, school infrastructure, 5.5, fire and emergency equipment, including 7 fire trucks and protective gear, 1.6 million, the Dr. Hugh Toomey Healthcare Center, 5.1 million, affordable housing projects, 5.2, Sir Robert Bond Bridge, 24 million, and municipal infrastructure, $29 million. As you can see, the Exploits District has fared very well. And with that, I welcome the opportunity to participate in this forum. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us on Roger's station this evening, we are currently involved in forum number 2, which again last night we had the Grand Falls Windsor Buckins Forum, Political Candidates 2015, and tonight we're exploring further avenue with the Exploits Candidates Forum with 2 parties represented this evening. First, the Liberal Party with candidate Jerry Dean, and the Progressive Conservative Party with candidate Clayton Forsey. We're about to enter into phase 2 of our evening, and this is the portion whereby our 2 panelists, which we've already welcomed, Shane Budgell and Margaret Pitcher, will each present questions to both of our candidates for the evening. So, ladies and gentlemen, please take it away.
Thank you very much. The first response to this question will be to the Liberal candidate, Jerry Dean. The future of our province depends on training and retaining our youth. They drive our economy, they have families, they pay taxes. However, we still have significant out-migration of our youth. What could you and your party do to help retain the youth of Newfoundland and Labrador?
Well, in response to that, I know in our platform it's It's a priority, and we're looking forward to working with Memorial University and other youth organizations throughout the province in stymieing that trend. And we're looking forward to a revigoration of the ability for our party and our province to retain youth or have young people come back home. And we'll be doing a comprehensive review of that ASAP as soon as we form the government.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. And now, Mr. Forsey.
Thank you. We've invested as a government fairly heavily into our youth, and especially in education. Post-secondary, and recently, post-secondary loans are now changed to grants because we want to make it more accessible for the students to get their education at less cost. And we've also brought in some programs regarding our skilled trades and the cost for the students to get their skills that they can provide the services they need to provide. We've also brought in a program that when people get their skills and the students get their skills, they can actually go to work for an employer, and the employer can get as much as 90% subsidized in the first year, 80% subsidized in the second year, and 60, I think, in the third year. This is to retain our student, I guess our young people, so as they can be educated here and they can be working here, and of course, hopefully grow and stay here.
Thank you, Mr. Forsey. Our second question will come from panelist number 2, Ms. Pitcher.
Thank you. The second question goes to PC candidate for exploits, Clayton Forsey. Hospital care is an important issue in this area, with only one palliative care bed available in Grand Falls Windsor. More beds are needed to ensure comfort for the patient and their families at one of the most difficult times. What would be your plan to change this problem?
When we came in as a government 12 years ago, infrastructure was a major problem. We were dealing with major infrastructure deficits, and I know throughout the past few years here in Grand Falls Windsor at the Regional Healthcare Center, we've invested heavily into upgrading and improving the facilities, such as the surgery rooms down there here in Grand Falls Windsor, and also the pharmacy unit, because it was very small and very hard to work out of. And the same thing, which I'm used to, of course, in the exploits district, and the exploits district now is expanded. But in the exploits district, as I know it, we also have the Dr. Hugh Toomey Center, which when we took over power, when I came in 2005, there was major problems with the structure, major investment had to be made to bring it up to a standard, and that's why in my opening statement that I mentioned, we invested $5.1 million. Out of that $5.1 million was over $3 million for equipment and close to $2 million for upgrades. And I realized that we need the palliative care as well, and I certainly, now that we've brought some of the infrastructure up to a standard that where we should be, we can start working towards increasing the palliative care units.
Thank you, Mr. Forsey. Mr. Dean.
Yes. Okay. We've taken on a number of items in our platform, and to have for the inclusive concept of health and long-term care, primary health care. In consultation with the Newfoundland and Labrador Medical Association, we'll provide support to the Newfoundland and Labrador Centre for Health and Information to complete the electronic health record system and full implementation of the patient electronic medical record system. We'll support a cardiovascular center of excellence, work to lower the rate of chronic diseases through health promotion and healthy living strategy, ensure people have access to the programs and tools needed, especially at the community level. Our health promotion and living strategy will include a chronic disease prevention and management program, a diabetes prevention and management program, a province-wide diabetes database, promotion of healthy eating habits, improved diagnostic services and timelines, and the list goes on. We, as a party and a future incoming government, put priority and give the people's health of this province a second seat to nobody. Health is our top priority, and we intend to listen to what the people want and have to say about that issue.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Okay, now we'll throw it back to panelist number one, Mr. Budgeon.
Thank you very much. The response to this first question will be to Liberal candidate Jerry Dean. With the recent addition to the responsibilities of pharmacists in our province, such as administering flu shots that patients are required to pay for up front, do you feel that the pharmacist can bill MCP same as a family practitioner doctor would?
Well, that's a new thing on the horizon, and if it means improved service for the clientele, then we're certainly open to being receptive of that. But with that being said, there is an element of people in our province that unfortunately aren't in a position to do the payments up front and stuff. So I think that approach is not necessarily a bad one, but it's one that we do need to take under review, and if we can improve upon it, then we'll certainly look at doing that.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Mr. Forsey.
Yes, thank you. There's a number of programs within the healthcare system that people can avail if they want to go out and pay for it. It's like any other province in Canada. We've got a public healthcare system where you can avail of anything from a diagnostic image that you require or down to a needle if you require it. And basically what we're doing here is offering that service to people, I guess, that if they can afford to pay for it, they can go in and they won't be holding up the line of the people who need the service and who need the public service. I think that's very important. That's one thing we must keep clear, that this is not mandatory. You don't have to do it. Our public health care is sacred, and we want to keep it that way, but it's another option like other, avenues that people, if they want to, and they have the funding, they have the money, and if they want to avail of that service, then they would also free up the time for the people that needs our public service.
Thank you, Mr. Forsey. And now back to panelist number two, Ms. Pitcher, for our fourth question of the evening.
We're going to keep with the health issue, and this question will go to the PC candidate for exploits, Clayton Forsey. With the recent concerns of having to travel across the province for medical appointments, what's your stance on working with the party, or your party, to see that financial assistance can be made available to those who need it?
That's a good question. There's already financial assistance in place for people that travel to St. John's and back for services that they require. When I got elected in 2005, we were short on a lot of diagnostic equipment, whether it was MRIs or dialysis. And I recall dialysis because it's a personal thing with me and a personal experience. When I had a relative who lived in Leading Tickles and had to go on dialysis, and the only two choices they had was Corner Brook or St. John's. It wasn't a very good situation, and it's terrible on the families, and there was no funding there to get back and forth. Today we've increased our dialysis sites from 7 to 16. I guess the biggest drive might be an hour and a half. Here in Central, in this area here, you can come to Grand Falls Windsor and get dialysis, and you can go to Gander, which is great for the people in this region. But if you have to travel to St. John's, and one time you had to travel to St. John's just for your MRI, today you can get one in Gander and you can get one in Corner Brook. So you don't have to wait. Again, you don't have to wait, and it's a public service. There's no cost. And if you have to travel to get that service, you can actually, there is a claim that you can go through the Department of Health and get a refund for it, or return for it.
Thank you, Mr. Forsey. Mr. Dean.
Yeah, thank you. And likewise, our party, certainly in our platform, we've got spent quite a bit of time at the burden of transportation costs, especially with the majority of the people in this province that are living from paycheck to paycheck, and find it very difficult coming up with monies. And I guess that's a reflection of our stance on the HST reversal too. But with that being said, I'll reiterate what Dwight Ball has said. and that the health of our people is paramount with this party, and we will collectively work within our own boundaries, and we will, and when it comes to people's health, anyone's suggestion, in our opinion, or anyone's advice or suggestions to improve the system for our people, whether it's from an NDP MHA, PC MHA, or any of our citizenry, we'll take the best advice and we'll apply it to reduce the cost of travel in terms of people having to move around the province to receive proper health care.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Again, for those of you who are just joining us on our cable channel this evening, we're in the midst of our Exploits Candidates Forum 2015, and partway through what we're calling our question section. Question from our panelists, Margaret Pitcher and Shane Budgell. And at this time, I'd like to throw the question time back to the panel. And Mr. Budgell, I do believe you're next, sir.
Thank you very much. This next question, with the first response, will be from the Liberal candidate, Jerry Dean. Tourism is has been a significant part of the economy in the Exploits district. What will your plan be to help improve that industry for your district?
Yeah, for the District of Exploits, and of course in general for the province, our plan will be to maximize our tourism potential, and Liberals have known tourism is a vital component of our economy with linkages to many other sectors, particularly in the rural areas, as you just mentioned. And the importance of tourism in supporting jobs and businesses are clear, and a new Liberal government will focus tourism marketing on the province's natural and cultural heritage, and Liberals believe that our tourism marketing should focus on what makes our province special to visitors, our culture, our environment, and our people. And we take tourism opportunities very, very seriously, and we intend to listen to the people first and foremost, and work from there.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Mr. Forsey.
Thank you. Tourism is certainly one of my projects that I really enjoy being involved in. Regards to our provincial tourism ads that we have, it's second to none in the country, and it's drawn a lot of visitors and tourists to this province. But on a local level in this district, we've got a lot to see. We always call it the beautiful district of exploits, but it's actually the beautiful district, just the beautiful Exploits Valley. We've got a lot of attractions for people, and I know when I was with IBRD, we work with groups in the district, such as the communities and towns. I recall last spring I worked with the town of Bishop Falls to file for a money to hire a consultant, and the funding was cost shared federally, provincially, and municipally. And they did their package, and this August they unveiled it, and they got their new riverfront strategy, and it's all about tourism and attracting recreation, salmon fishers and stuff like this. I recall in 2014, in February of 2014, I was still with IBRD, and I convened a meeting with Botwood for the very same thing. The town of Botwood and the Heritage, the Flying Boat Museum, and their mural arts. It's a fantastic history there. And I convened a meeting in February of 2014. In November, I think, of 2014, I went looking to help promote and push the application, but I don't think that was still filed, so I couldn't do anything but that. But I certainly work with all the communities to promote tourism, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Forsey. Now, our final question, I do believe, for the evening will come from Ms. Pitcher, our panelist number 2.
Thank you. The last question will first be answered by PC candidate for Exploits, Clayton Forsey. The waste management program that is currently in place in central Newfoundland has been a hot topic. If you're elected, how could you work to improve what we already have?
Well, and that was a Liberal idea, by the way. We built on it from there. So it was a good idea. It was their idea, and they never had the funding to see it through. We did, because we knew how to access the funding and fight for what was right and what was ours when it come to the offshore. So we were able to avail of some fundings and some services. And so when the waste management site was set up, there was a board set up that is independent and it runs itself. But they went around and they met with all the communities in the area, right from Buckens to Fogo to Glovertown to Leading Tickles, including Botwood and Bishop's Falls. And it was made up of a board of council people. Right now, there's 80% of the towns in this waste management area, 80% that's on collections right now. As a matter of fact, we started recycling there this year. It's a beautiful area. We have the one environmental stop, which is great, and we know what we're doing. We're starting to pick up on the recyclables. Right now, there's 20% of the tonnage that's going into the central waste management is recyclables. That's fantastic. It was only started this summer. It's only started a couple of months ago. So we're moving ahead greatly. And I spoke to one community, and I don't mind saying it was Bishop's Falls. They went on. They needed to buy a new garbage truck, a collector truck. It was going to cost $360. $360,000 would have been great at $360,000. $360,000. So they opted out to have the waste management do their collections, because when they costed it, it was really cost neutral. There was no difference. So they could save their $360,000. They didn't have to go in debt and have to worry about paying that back. And now they just pay as they go. So it certainly probably needs some improvements, but it's right now, so far, it's working very well.
Thank you, Mr. Forsey. Mr. Dean.
Well, I don't know if it's working as well as it should be, or as we'd like to think that it is. And I've been involved with the concept right from day one. And first and foremost, to everyone in the listening and viewing audience, you are to know that the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador really appreciate the importance of a clean, friendly environment, and for our residents in the province to be environmentally conscious and aware of that duty that falls on us all. I know that the business community are struggling, especially with the cardboard issue and different things. I will say this again, I was involved right from day one, and there's a lot of good things have come of it, from it, but again, it's been a learning process, and I did say from day one that it's a lot more difficult when you're on an island in the northeast Atlantic, up here where we're to mimic in an effective way what they do in the larger urban cities on the mainland. We participated in visitations and stuff preceding the construction of the facility at North Arm, and again, the reports that came back to me advised me of the same. So I guess what we're saying is we're into it at this stage to a level where there's no turning back, and we're into it for the right reasons, as Clayton mentioned earlier. But again, we've got to bring in all of the players, and again, this is coming from a mayor that's on leave. Again, don't tell the mayors and the councils of the communities that are dealing with these issues. This is a primary example that you're listening to them. Listen to them. So we're going to listen and not forget. We're going to listen and be advocates of what the people on the ground, the mayors and the councillors in the communities in this area have to say, and it's going to be taken very, very seriously.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Well, that brings to a close, not our evening here, folks, but certainly the close of our panelist question section. Our next section, in fact, is an opportunity for each of the candidates to ask a question of each other. And for those, again, who are just joining us, we of course, have two candidates, Mr. Jerry Dean, who's a candidate for the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador in the upcoming election, and Mr. Clayton Forsey, a progressive conservative candidate for the same event, of course. Now, gentlemen, you each will pose a question, one for the other. There's only two of you, so maybe we'll give you a few extra seconds to elaborate on your question. But once you ask it and the response is given, there will be no rebuttal. So straightforward questions, straightforward answers, and we'll take it from there. So we'll start with candidate number one. You are now, sir, in a position to pose your question.
Okay. Yeah, so this question certainly has more, in my humble opinion, it's more earnest, more pressing today than it was even 8, 10, 12 months ago, especially with the decline in the oil prices around the world and with the repatriation of thousands of Newfoundlanders that at one time were on turnaround in Alberta, and which was certainly a big contributor, still is, to the economy here in the province. But unfortunately now they're faced with job losses or potential job losses. So here's the question. Resource development. Exploits District is blessed with an abundance of natural resources in both forestry and water, hydro resources. Can you, Clayton, provide us with any or potential developments that you and your government can initiate towards development of these resources, finally, that will create new sustainable employment in the district for our people?
That's a good question, Jerry. Thank you. Serving as Parliamentary Secretary for Forestry and Agri-Foods this past year, I've been able to travel the province and meet with all the stakeholders, right from St. Anthony down across the province. I've met with the harvesting and the forestry, the sawmillers. I've met in the agri-food industry with our root crop industry, our berry industry, our chicken industry. We are doing very well in a lot of our own natural resources. We, as the mayor would know, or the candidate would know now, is that we've been dealing with interests from other companies to harvest the timber and to grow an industry that we'd like to employ more people and get the rights of our natural resources. However, I will say that we have 3 major sawmills in this province right now that are turning out 90 million board feet annually. We have 2 pressure-treated lumber companies here that's doing great. We also have the small sawmillers. We have the wood harvesters that's also supplying Kruger pulp and paper. We're also looking at value-added product as well. So I've been dealing with stakeholders that want to get involved in value-added. Value-added right now is a huge industry. There was another company that we were interested in. There's no secret regarding a pellet plant for the region as well. But in the words of the Council of Botwood, because it was designated to go there and still is, it's still on the burner. But you know, negotiations is still ongoing. The only thing is, I'd like to stick with what the council in Botwood relayed to me as well as my minister, is that we don't want any giveaways. We don't want any more giveaways. We're not going to do it unless it benefits the central region. And we can maximize the industry here in the central region, and that fiber can be used for the central region, then we're not about to give it away. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Again, we have a little bit of time, so if each of you want to get a sip of water or something, because you're just throwing the question back and forth to each other, feel free to do that for a moment. We're still on camera, waving to our delightful audience, but again, and everything is flying off my body, maybe it's a poltergeist here or something, we don't know. But again, we got to keep our listening audience updated. We are now almost 2/3 of our way, or probably further along, with our Exploits Candidates Forum 2015. And the section, if you're just tuning in, that we're now doing is actually where the candidates themselves, each of the 2, form a question and throw it to the other one for a simple question-answer response. We have just heard from candidate Dean, who posed the question to candidate Forsey, and now we're going to turn the tide. And Mr. Forsey will now pose a question to Mr. Dean, who will in turn simply give us his response. So, gentlemen, when you're ready.
Thank you. There's a growing problem with youth addiction and troubled kids in our province today and in our district. I've spoken to a number of people in the district who have been affected by this. This is definitely not where we want to be today. As well as our foster children in difficult situations can be open to the pressures of drugs and be more prone to develop mental health issues. So in light of that and how it's growing, what would you do in our district to help minimize or eliminate this growing problem?
That's a growing problem. It certainly is correct what you're saying there, Clayton. And liberals certainly are as compassionate as anybody else in regard to the needs of those individuals. And I think it's I wouldn't be able to recite it no more would I be able to recite that now than I can the Gettysburg Address, belonging to our American friends. But I know in our platform that issue is dealt with at length, and and specifically in our area, I'd like to think that the local town councils will work in conjunction. And again, hear what I'm saying. The local town councils in this district, in this area, for that matter, in this province, need to be listened to more. Not on the eve of an election and being assured that we know they know best, and then walk away from those conversations. And then when things start spiraling downwards, and the fingers being pointed at the town councils, like all of a sudden we don't know what's best. Well, I'm here to tell everybody that's watching that the mayors in this province and their councils and the people on the ground, their residents, their voices are going to be heard loud and clear on this issue. We are going to take care of the unfortunate people, children, teenagers, adults, in terms of, in this case, mental illness and the needs that's required. And we'll work with the people on the ground. This new government that's on the horizon as committed to work with the people. And again, we want to emphasize, like we've been doing all along, that we'll listen and not forget. We'll listen and advocate on behalf and for the well-being of everybody involved.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. Again, that brings to a close this section of our candidates forum. We just heard from both candidates and their questions they pose one to another. Our forum is actually coming to a close, and the final aspect of the forum this evening, really, will be the closing statements by each of our candidates. So we're just going to give them once again a second to ready themselves for the closing statements. And the first candidate, if you will, we're not calling them number 1 and 2, obviously, but the first candidate, Mr. Jerry Dean, will bring us his closing statements. And again, for those who are following the political scene, Jerry Dean is the candidate for the Liberal Party in the District of Exploits for election 2015. So, Mr. Dean, sir, when you're ready.
Thank you kindly, Dave. The goal of a political representative should be to demonstrate leadership and vision that improves the district and makes life better for all those who live there. I'm proud to be a member of Dwight Ball's team. We have made a commitment for a stronger tomorrow where people matter. There are many challenges facing Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, and I believe we can make a difference to help all residents face these challenges with confidence. I believe in the Liberal values of balancing social and fiscal responsibilities, making smart investments, and creating opportunities for young people and businesses throughout our great province, in particular in our region. Our Liberal government will focus on the needs of our seniors, children, and their families. It will be a government that listens, and we will take action on what is important to you. I want to be part of that government to bring your issues to the table, to work with you, to make our communities sustainable and safe in the future. The policies of the Liberal Party will set the course for many years. They are solid policies that enable our residents to have hope for tomorrow, a stronger tomorrow. In my opening speech, I spoke about a stronger tomorrow. As part of our plan for a stronger tomorrow, a Liberal government is committed to removing the 2% HST OIC proposed by the Davis government, which is only implementing hardships on the people less fortunate. Putting an independent seniors advocate position in place to address seniors issues. Introduce a new home assessment program for those over 70 to help seniors stay in their homes longer. The transferring of control of Crown lands to municipalities. Working together with all members of our governing team to help our district, our province, move forward in a positive manner. Addressing mental health issues and committing to a construction of a new Waterford hospital. In a true spirit of cooperation with the federal government, we must find common ground for our province to grow and prosper. We must take the lead of our new federal government and invest in our well-being. I pledge to work together to improve and grow our economy, to sustain us in the future. Work closely with you to represent your concerns and issues with respect to health care and education. Strengthen our communities in the district to ensure that they have a bright future through initiatives that help them grow. Be a strong advocate in harmony with individuals and their families representing your interests in government. Work with all members of our governing team to help our district, our province, move forward in a positive manner. Together, we can make it happen. With your support, I look forward to being your voice in government to ensure we have a brighter future for the residents of the great district of exploits. On November 30th, I humbly ask for your vote. Vote for Jerry Dean. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dean. And for those, again, who are just joining us, that was the closing statements at our Exploits Candidates Forum by Liberal candidate Mr. Jerry Dean. And now I would invite Mr. Clayton Forsey, the Progressive Conservative candidate for the region, to bring us his closing comments. Sir.
Thank you. The Liberals have promised several major infrastructure pieces, one being the Waterford Hospital. So far, they've totaled about $2.5 billion. They're not going to increase taxes. And they got no extra revenue right now. We all know where the economy is to. 70% of our budget goes towards public service. So if that's where they're going to get it, from the public service, because it's 70% of the budget, we better be careful. I just like to make sure that the public understands that. That's a lot of money. But then again, his finance critic said that when she gets her pencil sharpened, she'll look after that. So in saying that, I would also like to thank Jerry tonight for participating, and the organizers of this forum, Rogers. And thanks to you, the public, for engaging in this process, because it's so important to you, me, and our families. For the past 10 years, the people of the exploits have put their trust in me, which I consider a privilege and a vote of confidence. It's a huge responsibility that I take very seriously. The new boundary of the exploits district now includes Sandy Point, North Arm North, Wooddale, and a portion of Grand Falls Windsor. I welcome the opportunity to work with you with the same dedication and commitment to continue serving the District of Exploits with strong representation and experience. I respectfully ask for your support on November the 30th. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And that concludes the closing statement by Mr. Clayton Forsey, Progressive Conservative candidate in the District of Exploits. Well, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who have joined us this evening, it's been a pleasure. We have been bringing you for the last hour, roughly, our Exploits Candidates Forum 2015. And now it's time for the thank yous. Good luck, gentlemen, each of you in your respective candidate campaigns.
Thanks very much.
Special thank you again to Shane Budgell and Margot Pitcher, our panelists for the evening. To Susan McLaughlin, our assistant, our capable Vanna. She was one of my students, so of course I taught her everything she knows, including passing envelopes. So here you go. And of course, on behalf of all the Rogers assistants, station managers, and staff, and all of those who volunteer. My name is Dave Anthony, and on everybody's behalf, I want to say thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.